Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of the show, Trek Wednesday. Stardate 2017.088 at 22:01 Eastern Standard Time. Shut up, Tricorder. I'm joined here tonight by pretty much the entire DPS After Dark crew, sans ZEFilms. ZEFilms right now is recalibrating his Hollow Matrix and taking a little bit of R&R. Just kind of chill because, you know, he's had a really, really good ship porn schedule. And I recommend all of you to go check out his ship porn extraordinaire series, especially on some of his newer stuff right now. He's got a new series coming out, and I think it'll be very interesting to watch and enjoy. Right now, though, I am joined tonight by our cast, our chief kinetics expert. And I mean expert in all things kinetic and heavy cruiser type style play. Aponte, say hello to the audience.
How we all doing?
We're loving it, except for, like, you know, the new quote-unquote kinetic nerf. But we'll get to that later on. Our chief experimentalist and, hey guys, hold my beer, watch me do this thing. Tankia, say hello to everybody out there.
Sup?
Our Admiral of, hey, you know what? I'm going to go crazy Marine style on these nuts. JZH Nuts from JZH Gaming. How you doing out there in PS4 land?
How's everybody doing tonight?
And the Admiral of the Intelligence Agency, the Grumpy Intelligence Agency, the extra gravelly grumpy intelligence agency, the man who has more gravel under his chin than all of NASA ever used the freaking crawler in order to be able to put the space shuttle up on Pad B, Admiral SarcasmDetector.
Get off my space lawn, you goddamn kids.
I'm not even gonna... No. And our Chief Research and Development Officer, the man who gives us more science than all of the scientists, all of the science and technologists can stand. Even Bill Nye, the science guy, bows down to this guy. It is Darth Protius.
I don't know about all that shit.
Well, you know, something dark side. That's what I think. Anyway, we've more or less completed a lot of the rounds of triple testing here. And we just got the announcement that the new season is going to be launching, blah, 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 yakety schmack. Some new stuff that's going out as far as a heavy weapon slot, a railgun on these new ships that are going to be available on the C-Store, we're assuming tomorrow. And then all the T6 escorts and specified ships will also have this heavy weapon slot available to them. What are your guys' thoughts on this one here? Good, bad, indifferent,
I'm on the fence. It honestly depends on the heavy weapon stats, what those weapons are going to provide. To me, reading it sounds like something similar to like a kinetic cutting beam almost. None of the beam abilities are going to affect it. None of the cannon abilities are going to affect it. No torpedo abilities are going to affect it.
That's true. It also has, though, some shield pen into it, so it's not going to be as useless as the KCB is versus shielded targets. But you are right. It depends on the stats, on what actually is there and what eventually will buff those things. We're assuming that the all damage bonus buffs will affect it. We're not sure to what degree their baseline stats would be. Right now, it's speculation. JZH, what do you think? Good, bad, indifferent?
I think it provides an extra something for those ships that only have 7 weapon slots. So it's gonna add a little bit to, especially with the space balance coming. It's gonna add something else to think about when you're making a build on an escort or a raider that's only got the 7 weapon slots that'll actually get this heavy weapon slot. It could be the incentive that somebody needs if they're really good to jump into an escort versus a cruiser, which would be really interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing you PC guys get it and see what y'all can do with it and see if it's actually worth it. But I think it will add something regardless. I mean, obviously, ships that don't have that weapon slot are going to benefit from having something else.
I
think
can
it's
see them adding this to help equalize, the 4-3 or 5-2 layout type ships to have that extra slot so that they would be quote unquote competitive with the 4-4 layouts or the 5-3 layouts.
It's going to be interesting when the heavy escort carriers get an extra heavy weapon slot.
I think it's good. It's finally. And why do I say finally? Because cruisers got their comm arrays, which was a pretty decent buff to them. And then science ships got their sensor analysis rework, which was a significant buff to them. Plus, they got the secondary deflector as well. Escorts and raiders got left behind, and they've been left behind for a significant time. Couple of years in that regard. So giving them something to buff them up a little bit should mean we're going to be seeing more, hopefully seeing more escorts flying around in the DPS capacity. Hopefully there's a little bit more to this heavy weapon slot than what we're seeing currently.
It's going to wind up being escorts online again, watch.
I don't know, because I think with the balance pass that came to space that we've already more or less went through and run through the ringer on Tribble, this would kind of sort of equal, again, depending on the numbers, would more or less equalize what a 4-4 layout would bring to the table, because you would have this fourth option here, 360-degree weapon, that, barring some really stupid OP numbers, should make up for, like, say, an all beamboat build that's using a 4-4 and broadsiding.
I think it's telling that we're talking about having to make up for something like a 4-4 layout or a 5-3 layout, where if the space balance was a little bit different, you might not actually have to make up for that 4-4, 5-3 layout for an escort to be viable. And I think that's kind of the concern on the console side, is that are they adding this because of the space balance making escorts not viable anymore for DPS? And then the question is this going to be enough, like you just said, to actually make them viable?
See, I don't know if I agree that the balance is going to hurt escort, because I mean, a lot of what we've seen is cannons have really good numbers over there. Torpedo boats have really good numbers. So any kind of 5-3 or, layout like that the escorts usually have for a cannon build is really nice. So I think the balance kind of already brought it back. This could, depending on how strong this is, it could put it over.
All right, but isn't this just going to the 5-2 layouts, or is it going to 5-3 as well?
It's going
just anything that has 7 weapon slots.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean 5-3.
And 1 carrier slot or fewer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it cannot be a science ship. It has to have a tactical commander seat for bridge officer.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
basically, in essence, it's escorts and heavy escorts that have less than 8 weapons.
And a couple of the actual destroyer classes that they've dubbed, which the only one I can really think of. That. Yeah, the only one I can think of destroyer-wise that would get it would be the Hazari.
The Manticore is a destroyer.
I don't think the Manticore would qualify, though. Let me look.
Yeah, it's a 4-3. It's a destroyer.
All the destroyers should count, actually. They all have tactical commanders, and they all have a 7-weapon layout.
Some of
talking about the warships, which have 8 weapons, and those are something else. And of course, raiders as well.
So we got.
Well, that means the Phantom's going to get it.
Yep, it's an escort 4-3 layout.
All the pilot ships are going to get it.
Mm-hmm. But not the carrier dreadnoughts.
Now, this might be interesting on ships with, improved raider flanking. That might be an interesting weapon for that if you're, buffing up flanking with your intel and stuff like that. That might have some punch to it. But again, without being able to see the numbers, which we'll see tomorrow because I'll be on Tribble first thing as soon as that ship patch is over, to see what the actual numbers look like on these things. But without seeing that, there's no idea how good this is going to be or how horrible it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, going into it, I'll be honest, my expectation is it's going to be similar to the kinetic cutting beam with a little bit better tricks for shield pin and stuff. But that's my expectation going in looking at it, that it's going to be comparable to that item.
Mm.
I agree. I think after the balance, I don't know if they would want to come out with something that's really, really powerful right away.
Really?
Yeah, let's
We're
give it some
talking
room
about
for,
end of quarter
next
here.
month.
They're
Yeah,
looking to
maybe
buff
that's the
their
sell.
numbers, bro. They got to sell that power creep before the end of the quarter so they can make their shareholders happier with better numbers. This is what it boils down to. Every game right now is doing this. They're doing an end of quarter push to try to make as much money as possible so that they can make their numbers look inflated for their shareholders.
Now, I will say the ship trait on these escorts, though.
That
Yeah,
might be
talking about
interesting.
escorts.
Well, what's on the ship trait? I didn't look at the ship trait here. I was more, I just briefly glanced through everything there. What is the big deal with the ship trait?
Basically, with the ship trait, when you hit evasive maneuvers, you get a resistance buff, and I think maybe something else on there. And then after evasive maneuvers expires, you get a crit chance buff with a damage buff.
Yo, this is screaming PvP all over it.
Yeah.
Because you'll have those people with the evasive maneuvers doff use that to break away from the engagement. And the moment it comes off, cooldown, pop emergency power to engines, get back into engagement range. You now have a nice buff that will help you on your next pass, make your attack, wash, rinse, and repeat.
See, what I want to know is the radiation from triggering this thing a one-time damage boost, or is it a dot or a hazard? Because that will make the difference for the trait.
That radiation's a completely different one, Protius. That's for the first contact event. That's what that one is.
Oh, that's right.
This is
That's
a
right.
Separate
That's right.
trait that's on it. So actually, we're getting 2 evasive maneuver traits, ship traits, in the next, call it 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
PvP. What about any other Tribble testing that you all have done? What's your conclusions based off of what you've seen and done?
Prepare for Nerf wars. Because everybody's DPS just went in the shitter. Literally. Flush, wipe, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you were running a meta build, you can still probably use it, but you're not going to be anywhere in the ballpark you're at right now.
Not even close.
If you're planning on building something, my best advice, and as bad as this sounds, is until April 25th, stock up dilithium, stock up fleet credits, stock up marks. Just stock everything up. Don't really try to necessarily build towards anything, because as it stands right now, it's really hard to tell what's going to be good.
Yep. My own personal advice is build something you enjoy flying, have fun with it, and wait for the changes to roll in, and then we'll see what we need to do to fix everything.
I want to interject here and say it looks like nothing is going to be good.
Well, torpedoes, unless they nerf the hell out of torpedoes in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, but that's why I agree with him. Like, we saw torps starting to be really good, and then we get hit with the OKS nerf. So it might be that anything that starts to perform better just gets brought back down so that there's a minimum.
Well,
no,
I
go
ahead.
on, go on.
All right, I saw the blogs today, and me playing the devil's advocate that I do, I always read between the lines. And something that was in there caught my attention, and it gave me the reason behind this whole Nerf balance pass thing. Because they're introducing some new stuff, and they're doing it's kind of like a WoW matchmaking system where it's based on your gear level and all that stuff. They're trying to even it out across the board, but what they're doing with this balance is they're bringing down the whales and the DPSers down to the level of the casual player so that the casual players can compete in this new thing that they've got going on, so they're not left in the dust, and so that we can't game it up, and so we can't, break through the content fast and easy and collect the rewards for it. That's what they're doing. This has nothing to do with balance. This has everything to do with their new mechanic they're bringing in.
And the problem with that is, if you read the blog, it said that they have a new matchmaking system which will tell what kind of tier you're in.
Exactly.
Then
that's
why not
what I just said.
Why not just leave people like Spencer, who are in a tier above, with the people in that tier above, and those who are casual players? If this new tier thing supposedly works the way they're saying it's going to work, then the casuals can be in a tier and compete with each other. I don't see why you need to have casuals.
I just explained why.
No. I know. No.
Wait.
Why does tier C have to compete with tier A? Why do you have to make everything tier B for it to be effective? There's enough casuals that play STO across all three platforms where you could have an effective group of people who compete versus enough people who are the quote-unquote elite players. There's enough of those across all three platforms where you could have competition and activity where people would do. I mean, if we had a high-end PvE DPS race essentially for a queue, you would have people in it at all tiers competing against each other, and nobody would know necessarily they were in. You might have the occasional where a tier A gets put with a tier B or tier A, possibly just because there's not enough people there. But I think you would have enough people doing it across the board where it wouldn't even be a problem.
That's not the point, though. It's not about the competition and making people compete on different levels with each other. They're ensuring that the high-end players can't game it up and run through it faster than everybody else and reap the rewards better than everyone else. That's what this is for.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me just quote what it says from the blog here. Quote, "Our goal is always to ensure that every decision a captain makes is an effective one." End quote. Now,
We all get
let me translate this. Let me translate this. What this means is the social justice warriors have taken over the asylum at Cryptic.
Yep.
It means that basically any freaking casual who has zero knowledge of the game can throw together whatever shit they have, greens and blues and whites and Mark 5s and Mark 8s and whatever, and just throw them onto the ship and be competitive with someone who has over 9,000 hours in the game, knows how to min-max, knows all the synergies. They're all going to be equal.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing that they probably don't understand. This whole social justice warrior, everyone must be equal, everyone is special, is just full of fucking shit.
Amen.
It's full of fucking shit. Because no, not everyone is special. Not everyone is special. You have people who are more good looking than others. You have people who are smarter than others. You have people with talent. You have ugly people. You have fat people. You have just plain dumbasses who can't find their assholes with a radar and two arms.
Now, tell me how you really feel.
Preach it.
So this dumbing down of the game annoys me a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, how are they going to base it to decide? Is it going to be based on gear? Like, you know what I mean?
More than likely, it'll go by previous games are any indicator. It'll go by what level your character actually is, and then base it off of how many skill trees you have completed, what level your gear is, how many reputations you've done. They're probably going to put in a lot of complicated cryptic algorithms into this to figure it out, to make it more complicated than it needs to be, instead of just giving us elite queues.
And then yet, we're still going to have little Timmy, level 50, get in with people that are maxed out somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And still, my biggest thing is a lot of us have proven time and time again, trying to tell people that piloting is more important, that we could do 100K with builds that are less than what we usually have, and that other people that have all gold builds can't even do 30K. So the gear is not what to base it off of.
No, I agree. This system that they're putting in should not be implemented. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's going to be a craftic fail, and they're going to get burned by it.
I'm going to reserve judgment until it actually goes live and see exactly which way the algorithm's going to lean.
Oh, look, my server's not responding. There's somebody from Cryptic watching the show.
Basically, for the queues, the way I look at it is, if that's the new algorithm for going in there, but we can still make private matches with our friends, good. I'll just hang out with you guys.
Yeah, but this is going to be a totally different thing. The new war game system isn't going to be private match.
Nope.
It doesn't look that way. It looks like it's going to be an open PvE queue to where you have to compete with 2 teams of 5 people to try to beat the other team from reaching the objectives and the goals before they do.
So with the war game system is an answer to a question that no one asked.
And what question was that, Cam?
No one asked a freaking question. It didn't exist. We wanted more difficult content. We wanted a challenge. So
we don't want to get nerfed.
They nerfed the shit out of our stuff and said, hey, there you go. Have fun. Now it's more challenging.
Well,
yeah, you want a challenge? Yeah. Do this with Mark II phasers. Ha ha! There you go. Have fun.
Except we already did.
I mean, the main thing is, like, the reason we all can tell that this is a nerf is they've come out and stated in their update, or in the patch notes and stuff, that XYZ wasn't working properly, so we fixed it, and then we cut it by 50%. Well, how do you know it was working? How do you know what would be working right if you fixed it and then made it even worse? Like that's why I know it's just blatant nerfs.
Well, it's their pattern of behavior. I've been pointing it out for years that every time we identify something that's broken and voice our opinion about it loud enough, they'll finally take a look at it, say, okay, we understand that you guys are pointing out that we screwed up our own code. So, yeah, we're going to fix it for you guys, but for complaining about it, we're going to slap you with a nerf on it, so have fun with it. That's what they've done over the past couple of years, and we've shown it time and time again.
True story. I don't know. I mean, the game's going to be different, and let's be honest. I mean, we could be arguing a point that's not going to matter here, where this war game thing's going to be boring, and it's going to be like almost every other STF we've played that has just fallen to the wayside, and we're just like, oh, okay, bye.
Well, all right. What if they made it on the same scale as, say, Undine, UAA, the Undine map, where it's interesting, it's fun. People wouldn't mind running that one over because, hey, there's a little bit of variability to it. So if we all have different objectives, kind of like, a football match, some people have to go out there and tackle other people while the other people moves resources over or something like that. Or King of the Hill, except they actually make a good King of the Hill map.
I mean, I'd rather honestly have, like, no-win scenario versus, like, Team A, no-win scenario. Team B, no-win scenario. Who gets further?
Yeah.
That would be okay. I'd be all on board for that.
What's also, what kind of strikes me, I think it was Protius who brought it up about not wanting people to complete or have a group of people who can complete content so fast and reap the rewards. And yet the whole basis of this whole wars is to see who beats it faster in the first place. I mean, it's hypocritical in a way. It's like we want you to see who beats it faster, but we're going to make everybody, equal, which I can get. Like, I get the concept, but for this game and how this game's been for so long, where it's been a game where you chase DPS. I mean, that's what we do on console, is we chase DPS, we chase time, we chase beating Hive Elite under a certain mark. And the whole reason we play this game is being tossed out the window. And now we're being told, well, you can still compete against 5 other people who could be pugs, which means your win is worthless. Or it could possibly be another group of 5 people who are just as dedicated as you are. But how Cryptic now makes it is they don't have to be just as dedicated as you are, because they screwed everything to hell. And we all have, nobody does DPS anymore. And
Hold on, JC, it's worse than that. You're not chasing DPS. You're trying to be more effective.
Right.
Game. Now, what they're trying to do is make it so any choice a captain makes is equally effective. That's the shithole.
Right.
I'm going to run a mine layer boat. Yay!
All right. I'm going to flip it to the other way, because I've been arguing on this point here for years. And I'm not kissing anybody's ass. You know me. I'm just going to call it as it is. If we are going to have a game system where there are XYZ weapons in play, and depending on the player's skill and build imagination and gear available to be able to synergize properly, so long as you can, one, figure it out and to acquire said gear, that you should be able to run, depending on the map, an effective mine layer that, has beams as supporting weapons, or an effective torpedo boat that uses science as a secondary, or a science ship that doesn't use any sort of physical weapons, whether it be energy or kinetic based. You should be able to run all that and be effective with it just as well as an all 8 beam array boat or a cannon boat, again, depending on the player, the skill, and the gear that's available in game. So if that's their end goal and they're that much closer to it, then I applaud them for that work. The big squish
It'll be the first
has happened before in other MMOs.
Ever does that. It'll be the first game ever that has that.
Yep.
Because let's be realistic. Look at all the other games out there. None of them have that.
Nope.
Any game. Look at any game out there. There are always better synergies. There's always certain metas that work better than other. You can't go into Diablo 3 and just throw on any old stuff and just go max out your torment, going to the torment 20 fucking rifts, whatever. Impossible. You have to min-max. You have to strategize. You have to think about it. Wow, you can't go do mythic content just throwing on any old gear, just a random assembly of gear and jumping in. It isn't possible. Even if you have the good gear, the best gear out there, if you're a shit player, you just can't. You can't.
And let's be honest. That's what makes those games fun.
Well,
not everybody being equal. What makes it fun is that you spent the time to farm gear, craft gear, improve gear, and then you say, "Look at me! I finally got my gear, and I'm going to go run Torment 10 on Diablo 3, or I'm going to go run, the hardest trials in Elder Scrolls Online, and I can do it now to a point, and then that's when skill comes into play." And that's what makes it fun, making everybody equal and saying that, well, I can run whatever the hell I want. It doesn't matter anymore. That's, it just doesn't make it fun anymore, because I could throw anything on any of my boats and it doesn't mean anything. I mean, yes, my piloting skill matters, but essentially what Cryptic's telling me is I can throw anything on this Kelvin Intel Dreadnought that I'm flying through the breach right now, and I'll be just as effective as I am on my AP beam boat with 2 plasma consoles, 4 locators, leech, bioneural infusion circuits, etc. And if that's the case, then there's no separation of people who are actually good and who aren't. it takes the fun out of it. I mean, it maybe those who aren't people who aren't necessarily good, maybe it's fun for them because now they can compete with whoever.
Millennials.
All right. Now let's clarify a couple things here. One, we're not saying that you literally throw on anything and suddenly
Right.
you are the world's greatest players competing with an SOB off of a full DHC build. All right, I'm not stating that. I'm not implying that. I'm not asserting that. I'm talking about actually going through and researching the gear options for a specific build. I don't want to throw on AP locators on a freaking mine build and be good on every single map. Hell no. I don't want that. I don't want any, Tom, Dick, or Harry nooblet out there going around saying, hey, look at me in my white gear with all my tanking gear over here trying to do max DPS and then getting within 5% of somebody who actually does min-max on a specific build. No, I don't want that at all. And if that's what they're going for, hell no, I'm completely against that. What I'm talking about is somebody like you or Sarcasm or Tankia who are going to spend hours upon hours on end theory crafting, doing research, looking at available gear, looking at what's out there, thinking of different ways to be able to make these gear items synergize with different spec trees and different talents and different situations where they're playing with Protius or an Aponte or an Astro. Coming in here, they're going to do X, Y, and Z. Typically against these type of mobs, I'm going to try A, B, and F. And if F works out properly, A and B will get boosted. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, if that ends up what it ends up being, ultimately, then I think it's a win. Some things intrigue me, like plasma consoles essentially being worthless. Actually intrigues me because it means I could put more universals or even science consoles on my Dreadnought, for example, to boost my science abilities. But it just feels like from watching a lot of you guys on Tribble is that it might not be that way, and I think that's what's concerning. And then with these new queues coming out for season 13. At the end of April for y'all on PC, it just kind of feels it kind of opens the eyes. It kind of sheds the light on what they're actually trying to achieve with this nerf and this balance.
They're slapping us down so that the casuals can compete with us and not feel bad about getting smashed. That's what they're doing.
I mean, the one thing I'll say, and this is going to be a really blanket general statement, but I've played enough MMOs, different type of MMOs, that quite typically this is one of the first MMOs where I have found a vast majority of people just comfortable with what they have. Other games I've played, people are grinding, running missions, trying to get help, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like STO, since it's STO, Star Trek and stuff, there's a portion of people that just want to run a certain way, which, sure, it's fine, but then you have to consider, if you want to run a certain way and you go into a public queue, you better imagine there's going to be other people that are going to be running a different way, and you kind of have to respect that one way or the other.
I agree with that, but I think how other MMOs tend to approach it is that they add new gear that's better than what you have, which forces you to run the new content that they put out, which means if it's WoW, you have to buy that next expansion. If it's Elder Scrolls Online, you have to buy that next expansion or subscribe. Or if it's Diablo 3, you had to buy the last expansion that came out years ago. And here it feels like instead of adding new gear that's better, making us want to run the new reputations or run the new queues, is that it feels like they're pushing us backwards to where we were, a couple of years ago on PC. And it's just, maybe it's the right thing to do. Maybe it is, but it just feels backwards. And I think that's where a lot of the angst comes from, is that they're not doing it the way other MMO developers do it. I mean, even Neverwinter, they'll tweak gear. I mean, every MMO tweaks gear, But if they want to change the meta, they introduce a new one that forces you to go run the new content rather than go back to gear that you put into your bank 2 years ago and dust it off and see if it works now.
They sold us the power creep. We gave them the money for it, and now they're nerfing it.
Yep. Which they said they would never do. They would never devalue anything people spent money on and invested time in and blah, blah, blah. And here they are doing it yet again. Another cryptic lie that we all fell for. Shame on us.
Now, SOB had said this, although granted he was originally on the side of keep the power of the plasma consoles. But early on, it was, this stuff is way too powerful. This should not be a thing for these science consoles to work this well on one particular build and only because of one proc. Not because of the extra ability stats that are on there, but just because of the proc. The rest of the stats can go away for most of the builds there. That's what became the meta. Not because of the science console stats, but because of its proc, which is supposed to be a secondary ability of it. When you have tac ships that are getting more out of those science consoles per slot than their own tac consoles are worth, and that any other captain or ship that has less science slots out there, or if you're not a tac captain, you cannot gain the most benefit out of those than the tac captain can, or the ship that has 4 or more of those science consoles in those slots. That's ridiculous. That's way overpowered. That's about, using SOB's analogy, that's about as bad as OKS being as good as it is right now on holodeck. It doesn't look good because there's so much runaway power creep that's on there. Take that away, suddenly something there that nobody cared about before suddenly becomes a standout, and that also needs to be squashed. That's fine.
It's not that the
Don't
science
cry about the
consoles
rest of
are
the crap.
overpowered. In your example, it's the tactical consoles that are underpowered.
Yep.
And that's easily proven. Easily proven, right? Tankia, Protius, you can run ships without any tac consoles whatsoever and still get stupendous amounts of damage.
Shoot,
My science team proves it every day.
my Dreamboat doesn't run any of the science consoles or any tac consoles, and I can still eke out 75k like it's candy.
It got to the point where tactical captains running beam boats didn't even have to have them. I mean, if you were running a beam science hybrid, you could still get great numbers out of your beams without having to run the tactical consoles, and then you could run universal consoles in there to boost the science. So yeah.
Yeah, the only thing you're missing is with your crit chance, crit severity, and you can run, there's a couple of consoles, universal consoles, you can run in there and just get all of that back.
Yeah, that's what we were making up for it with things like probability manipulation and different things. So yeah.
So yeah, the tactical consoles were absolutely underpowered. They were, hell, even Vel back in the day, commented that the tactical consoles were way underpowered. Like for each console, you only increased your DPS by a couple of percent. So, comparing the science consoles to that and saying, well, look at the science consoles, they're way overpowered compared to the tactical consoles, when the tactical consoles are just rubbish, they're useless, then trying to equalize them and you end up with everything being garbage, which is the whole process we see here on all these nerfs.
I'm not going to have the last word on this, but I'll just say it this way. What is the difference between scaling up everything else to match the embassy console's proc versus scaling down the proc to match everything else?
Just the number.
Let's be honest here. There are things in this game right now live on holodeck that are either overperforming or are broken completely, and they need to be fixed. That's not the argument. Stuff needs to be fixed and balanced so that it's not as insane as it is now. But the level of change that they are suggesting on Tribble right now is a complete and total wash of everything we have ever done in the past 3 years. It completely changes everything. but they're still not addressing the root problem, is that new players, casual players that come in are not going to have the experience, the know-how, or the knowledge base to get that information to be competitive with the people who have experience and have been here for years investing their time and money in the game that they love. It's just not going to happen until they fix that situation.
The main problem is the embassy consoles. We all know they were good. We all know that they're good, and they were not working properly in certain aspects. But the thing that gets me is that they hit it with what, 3 or 4 individual nerfs on how they function.
Yeah, in a course of a year.
Well, no, I'm saying in this triple patch, there's like 3 nerfs on that immediately up front.
Yeah, and they took it from something that was overperforming to something that was completely not viable. I mean, doing under 1k damage with 3 of them.
And I mean, and like I said, it's one of those things where it's like they could have just added one of those nerfs and seen how it went. And, if it was still causing problems, put in another one. But they decided, honestly, just the broadside us, essentially, with these. And, I mean, like, let's see. We only get to proc per weapon cycle, or per fire cycle now. It was, what's the percent drop on the damage? I know they upped it a little bit, but I don't remember what it was.
They brought it down to 25%.
Yeah, and then
significantly increased it, but significantly in quotes.
And then we also have a 5-second lockout, or isn't it 5-second lockout?
There's a lockout. I'm not sure of time.
Yeah, there's a second integer lockout of when you get a proc that you can't do it again.
And then it doesn't go through shields anymore. It bounces off the shield. So yeah, 4 nerfs on top. 4 nerfs at once.
All right, now in
Any
that
one
case
of
though,
those.
that's a mechanics change that was freaking warranted. There's way too much shield bypass bullcrap that's been going on in this game for a while. Way too much. It devalued the use of shields.
Yeah, but that's fine. But I'm saying, like, they should have just put that shield bypass fix in first, and maybe.
And if that wasn't enough, and then if that wasn't enough, then you can go further. Yeah.
Because the thing is, they literally just bashed this thing into the ground with 4 fixes. One was probably a justifiable adjustment. One was an adjustment that makes sense to them changing the fire cyclings of the cannon weapons. Sure, okay, I'll give them those 2. Tweaking the damage up and down a little bit. Okay, sure, whatever, because we get all this free damage, plus all % free damage anyway. But like that lockout thing too, like all 4 of those, just it's a lot to do.
Well, their history has shown that they don't do anything incrementally, ever. They either gingerly look at it and say, oh, it's okay, only 1% of the people are breaking it, so we're not going to touch that. Or they nuke it to oblivion and then try to settle around with it once the dust settles and see what happens. And then they risk flaming themselves on the forums because people outraged and crying over how much money they spent to upgrade certain things that just got nerfed to hell.
It almost reminds me of those TV shows where somebody's, complaining or saying something about something, and then a person just picks it up and smashes it in front of their faces and says, "Are you happy now?"
Oh, I've got the perfect for this. You guys know that scene in First Contact when Picard is in the ready room with that chick, and they're talking about Captain Ahab.
Yeah,
and
Lily.
He takes the rifle and he throws it into all the ships and destroys them all. Well, that's Picard as Cryptic throwing the Nerf bat at everything we own to destroy it all. That's how I feel.
Wow.
I like it.
All right. I will say this, though. I will say this. On a prime example of what you said actually happened here, as far as the kinetic community was concerned. Remember the whole fiasco with Chemosite and the double procking on the Torp spread, which Firewall also had that same bullcrap? Mm-hmm. So you had Chemosite double procking, then Torp spread double procking on the double proc. And then each torpedo procking Chemosite, especially when you combine it with a gravel and a whole bunch of targets there, and this 1 kilometer AoE proc. Remember all that nonsense?
Oh, I love that nonsense.
That was fun nonsense.
I personally hated it because it was like, oh man, people were triple stacking Chemosite and then procking it off on Torp spread with Neutronic and everything else, which got Neutronic and Quantum Phase a really bad name. So what they did was they got rid of the double procking, they got rid of the Chemosite stacking, and then they limited the target cap on Neutronic and Quantum Phase to 10. Now those three. All right, the third one, okay, the target cap, all right, fine. That's good. All right, fine. I'll swallow that pill. Okay, needed. The others are definitely bug fixes. Needed to happen. Good. They then went further and said, all right, now, all the other torpedoes on Neutronic and Quantum Phase are now just quantums. The only time where Neutronic is an actual Neutronic torpedo and the Quantum Phase is an actual Quantum Phase torpedo is on the main target. And then they increased the AoE for the procs on the main target only. Which, at first you're like, maybe good for people who like to use gravels and whatnot. But for those people who don't, which is the majority of people out there, who don't use a lot of grav wells with those spreads on there, or if in the event that the grav well doesn't reach that far, those torpedoes spread out and hit those targets, they're not neutronics, they're not quantum phases, the procs don't work on them. That's a complete freaking over nerf as you were looking at a problem where there were multiple bugs in place to make those things look like they were overperforming. Now, meanwhile, while those two were done, they said they will go through a review process, review it, and see if they need to change it or not. In doing so, they broke Quantum Phase high yield to where it will not drain the main target of the high yield. Already reported, okay, that's fine, whatever. Now, the change to gravimetric torpedo is now a guaranteed rift proc for every single target in that spread. You have Torp spread 3, that's 5 targets there. So long as they're all in range and they all get hit, there's a guaranteed rift proc on there. And they also fixed the scaling of part gens for the rift proc. So guess what? All those rift procs up there, scale up with your part gens. Load up on those EPG consoles, whether from the Crenum Science one or the Embassy ones. And congratulations, you're going to have some really nice rift procs with your gravimetric photon torpedo. Good job,
Okay.
Congratulations. But now, every torpedo in the game that's a specialty torpedo, except for Quantum Phase and Neutronic, has all of their procs working on all of the targets except for those two. Why is that?
I'll give you the short
Consistency.
answer. Here's the short answer. Instead of being methodical and incisive and researching and finding the issues that cause all of this stuff, they're more likened to somebody trying to cure cancer with a thermonuclear weapon. Oh, you've got cancer? Nuke it! That's how it's working. That's what they're doing. They're not worrying about the collateral damage. They're not worrying about the side effects or the repercussions down the road. They're literally nuking the hell out of everything and then dealing with the aftermath later to make the shareholders happy.
Yeah, and dealing with the aftermath is putting out a new shiny ship that you would buy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to nuke all your stuff, but here's a T7 ship. Yay!
Yeah, it's kind of like, here's a lollipop, Timmy, and then shove the needle in the arm.
Needle? More like a barrel of a gun up his ass.
Now, to be clear, we're not just we're not complaining about just the science consoles, the embassy consoles. We're talking about all the fucking nerfs.
Bleach.
Everything out there. I mean, here's the thing. If you're balancing by taking stuff away all the time, you're going to end up with nothing on your skills.
But all right, I would agree with that 100% if that was a case across the board. It isn't. It is demonstrably not true, because there are a lot of the adjustments that they're making for science abilities, specifically drain. They removed a lot of the heavy drain component from Leech, which was doing god-awful things that shouldn't have been done. It was breaking a core mechanic of the game, energy management. that just went out the window once Leech came into play, especially at those numbers. Leech is not useless. It is still useful. You're getting, what, 7.5 subsystem power for each one of them at max stacks?
Now we are. Before we weren't. We were getting 6.
Right.
Yeah, you're getting
so 7.5. That's
7.5 at ridiculous numbers of Draenac. You're not.
No, you don't need ridiculous numbers of Draenacs.
It's only like 200. It capped
200,
like
which is
300.
Let me put it to you this way: at 200, I am not stacking Draenacs at all. You know how easy it is to get freaking 200 Draenacs? Oh, let me see here. I have Drain Expertise on this Galax where I'm not going for it at all. 166. I'm really close to 200. I'm not even trying.
That's because you've got 100 in your skill tree because of the Science Ultimate.
Right. Well, then spec for it.
The main thing, and this is kind of one of these unintentional things that people are going to learn really fast once they start ripping off consoles and things, is a lot of people forgot that we have a lot of resistances built into us, like drain resistance, control resistance, since they changed the expertise. Now that people are going to be ripping off a certain set of science consoles that has those expertise, things might start hurting or feeling bad. So that's going to be a thing that people are going to have to pay attention to.
On top of that, the Mako shield, which Callan was so nice to link in there right now, perfect timing, thanks to the Agronauts. The Mako shield also stacks with Leech, so those drain abilities will work. If you want a full-on drain build, here's a piece of gear that will synergize with another piece of gear, and it's not overpowered pieces, but they will work really nice with each other, and you start building and speccing for drain, and congratulations, you have lots of subsystem power and the ability to drain or shut down an opponent, whether it's a player or an NPC.
Yeah, if you're running a drain build and you're running the Mako shield, I have bad news for you. You're doing it wrong.
It's stacking.
Mako shield only works when people shoot at you, if I remember correctly.
Right. Well, for those people flying cruisers, it's not a bad build. You're not going to go on high defense. You're not going to get, whacked out of having anything crazy happening with you there. Like, I want to dodge all the attacks.
Yeah, but we're also possibly running into a new meta where science without weapons and just torpedoes and mines is probably going to be a thing again. Because kinetics are still proving to be very strong in both PvE and PvP formats.
Kinetics have always kinetics, for all intents and purposes, have maintained the same amount of viability. They're supposed to be the heavy weapons that'll synergize with energy weapons. You drop the shields, kinetics come in and punch the hull to bits. That's how Star Trek has worked. And it's finally coming back into where the game was originally designed to have that. You needed a weapon that didn't use energy to have better energy management for your weapon power, and you wanted to have something that would do a lot of damage to the hull in one big punch. And the energy weapons at that time didn't have that, but your torpedoes and mines did.
Well, that's how the game was sold. I remember when I was trying to play it back in beta, they're like, yeah, you kill shields with the phasers and you hit it with the torpedo.
Here's a good analogy for you, Odin, and you might actually get behind this one and understand how most of us feel about this. Let's say 5 kids are all got brand new shiny BMX bicycles, but one kid had more money, so he got the better bicycle. Okay, they're all going to have a race, and that one kid with the better bicycle is doing so much better than everybody else because he trained, he worked at it, he learned how to ride his bike. 2 of them are still on training wheels. The other 2 can't keep up with the first kid because they think it's because he's got a better bike. So what does the race official do? Instead of showing them how to train and how to become better, he takes the kid with the expensive bike and deflates his goddamn tires. They're pulling a reverse Tom Brady here, and nobody sees it.
No, I agree with you to an extent. to an extent, I agree with you. I think some of these changes here are a little bit overboard. The plasma console, Tanker did an appropriate breakdown on that. I agree with his assessment on that. So from that perspective, yes, I agree with you. What I don't agree with on is that the person who trained well or bought something special and knows how to use it, or both, should not be penalized as bad, so that their delta between them and a person who doesn't know what they're doing or doesn't care to know what they're doing, has no skill, just wants to, roll their face across the keyboard, or even worse, not roll their face across the keyboard and not activate anything. The delta between those two should be great, but it's not going to be as big of a delta as it is now. And now, meaning now on holodeck. The delta is stupendously huge. We get that. Powers are way out of control. But even post-adjustment, the delta should be great between a player with skill versus a player without skill for the exact same ship. And it's not going to be like that. And some of it will be a social adjustment on our part to be able to get adjusted to the new numbers. World of Warcraft went through that nonsense. Rift had a little bit of that going through their changes beforehand. We get that. We understand that. Pro players will still be pro players post-change. That's not going to change.
That's
What
if the
is
pro
going to
players
be
are
the
still
problem,
around
though,
after this
is
change.
what?
If
Well,
they're
hold
still
on. What
around.
is going to be the problem, though, is if Cryptic wants to raise the floor to the point that the delta between the floor and the ceiling is minuscule. That is where I have the problem with it, because then we're going to go straight back over to the same firewall bullcrap, slap on 8 beams, throw on a couple other consoles, spam spacebar, and spin around in circles, and I can do 100k DPS. Whoop-de-frickin' do.
Maybe 50k after the nerfs.
Well, 20 for Odin because torps.
Yeah. But, well, all right, let me repeat that.
Whoa.
Let me repeat this quote, all right? Quote, our goal is always to ensure that every decision a captain make is an effective one. If that isn't trying to get rid of that delta, I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a scary sentence, yes.
They're dumbing this game down to the point so that everybody can get a trophy and feel special and be like Captain Kirk and sleep with green alien women.
And if they want to do that, then do a portion of the game where they can develop it like Second Life and make them happy. Make that part of your clientele happy. As far as the rest of the clientele that actually cares about being competitive and being able to take a ship, whatever ship they choose to, and then find the best gear out there and work for it, and then maximize it, and then train to be able to use that effectively in multiple STFs. Reward those players too.
Not with this current system. Thanks for playing. Thanks for spending your money. Have a nice day enjoying yourself as being one of the low class.
Alk, it's not a Second Life dig. No, I actually rewarded Second Life and applaud them ages ago, and saying that, you know what, STO has the capability to be able to play like Second Life. If they develop that aspect of it, they would make money hand over fist doing it.
Wait, wasn't Second Life just like porn online?
It's The Sims Online, only with a little bit more of a quasi open world type of feel. If honestly,
it's all
if STO
porn.
developed a portion of that to serve the RP community, they would make money.
Tons.
I mean, basically, Proteus, it's like Drozana after like 10 p.m. East Coast.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how many more straws the camel can take on his back, bro. I just don't know.
All right. Well, in wrapping up the rant here, anything else that's going on that's crazy coming down the pipeline, aside from more videos from each and every single one of us? Well, except for Sarcasm, he's probably going to put out 3 videos.
Well, I wanted to point out one thing to you, Odin, before you. It's about the escort ship trait. Just because I want you to do an over-under on calling it. It says, and I'm going to read this off, quoting it. After reaching level 5 in your escorts, you will unlock the hit and run ship trait or starship trait. While this trait is slotted, evasive maneuvers will provide a very high damage resistant rating buff. When evasive maneuvers expires, you'll receive a weapon damage and critical hit damage buff for a short time, over and under its energy weapons only.
Snipey, SOB, add that one to the list.
I thought we weren't supposed to rant tonight.
Well, I banked on a half an hour of ranting, so and it was surprisingly it wasn't sarcasm or Odin for the most of it.
For a change.
For a change.
We're learning.
Well, we can't let you fuckers have all the glory.
I haven't got to say much the last 2 shows, so I figured I'd get
Well,
in
we
there.
were coming to you anyway. What's happening over in console world, you know, and are you guys excited for this change or kind of like, eh?
I think we're wary. I mean, I've been following Tribble, you guys, Snipey and SOB specifically. We're not too upset yet. I think once everything hits with you on holodeck on the 25th, we'll be paying close attention to what builds are coming out, what you guys are saying, what other people are saying.
We're not sharing anything anymore, so good luck.
Then we're scared. No. But I mean, on console we do our own testing too. I mean, because we have to see what works because of how the UI is. But we're definitely not excited about it. But I don't think most of us are like terribly afraid yet. I think once we see how season 13 starts to play out, our opinions may change a little bit. It will be interesting to see what happens with season 13 with you guys while we're getting season 12 the week before. So we'll have the Lucari rep, the 2 new gravity kills, and the Zakethi whatever. And then we'll have the battlegrounds as well. I will say, with AOI, the best thing that came with AOI was Badlands, which was the space battleground. I think that was everybody that I talked to really liked playing that. Still goes play it. We use it for farming ship traits when we have to level a ship and get temporal and Terran marks or whatever. So we're curious. We've been talking about it. Of course, everybody's got an opinion, even though nobody on the console world has hopped on Tribble that I know of to test anything out. So we're basing everything off of what the PC guys say. But we're worried, but at the same time, like for me, like we were talking about tonight, I have every piece of rep gear that's currently out there in game right now. I have most of the mission gear that you can get in game right now, and what I don't have, I can easily get just by rerunning a mission or 2. So we'll have things to play around with once we get the space balance. Of course, not everybody has that because not everybody's put the money into it or spent time farming, getting dilithium, getting fleet credits, and whatever. So some of us are better prepared than others. But I don't know if it'll hit us as hard per se because we don't really know how much DPS we're doing. Like you do on PC, we don't have a parser. And so we really don't know. We'll be able to tell going into a Hive Elite, obviously, going from 5 to 6 minutes to 9 to 11 minutes. But beyond that, we really won't be able to tell. So I don't think we're too scared yet, but we're definitely not excited about it.
Well, I don't think you guys are going to get as affected by it as we are, because console really hasn't had much time to invest into their game yet. So there's still a lot of nuance and a lot of new shiny, and a lot of the game mechanics you guys are still learning because, like you said, you don't have a way to track your own DPS. So you guys probably won't get hit as hard by it or get affected as hard by it as we are, because we know what's coming. We know where we're at, and we know how much we're about to lose. That's the difference.
Well, I think I think some of us will get hit just as hard, because there are players on PS4, and I would assume the same for Xbox, that you would call top players, that if they were running the same way on PC as they are on console, they would more than likely be in that higher tier of players. Um, people. I know people. I've done it myself, who have invested a lot of money in the short 7-month period that we have. Um, who have spent, hours upon hours of grinding. Granted, it's not 5 or 6 years worth. So I think emotionally, you are definitely going to get hit a lot harder. But I think actually mechanically in game, there are some of us who are going to, go into a Hive Elite or a Hive Advanced or an Undine Assault and be like, holy shit, I can't do a lane by myself anymore. I used to come through and clear an entire lane in 3 minutes with a dreadnought in it. And now I can't even do the lane by myself and there's no dreadnought, because we're not going to just change our builds overnight. We're going to run our build, see how it does, and then we're going to start tweaking and whatever. So I think there will be players hit just as hard, but just not as many percentage-wise across the board, because console's got a lot of casual players, and which I don't find anything wrong with that. It's just we have a lot of casual players, and then there's players, just not as many percentage-wise, I think, will be hit as hard.
Well, don't you know this game is meant for casual players?
Well, every MMO is meant for casual players.
I was actually going to ask, because I know you guys can't track your DPS, but does it feel like it's the same kind of environment, whereas here, for whatever reason, being good is a negative?
Yeah, when people do communicate. Communication is a little bit different on console. We do have the text chat, but you have to actually go into a menu. The text chat, you can't just click over to the box and type it in. Well, I guess you could if you hooked up a keyboard. I don't, because I don't text chat very much. And then, of course, when you post stuff on Facebook or on Reddit or anywhere else, if you start talking like you know things, people automatically give you their own opinions and tell you why you're wrong. So I think that could be said for any, whether it's PC or console. If people know you're good, a lot of times they might not like you.
Elitist.
Or if they think they're just as good, like, you post your build and then they immediately post their build, and when you look at their build, you think, how the hell does that work? But you try to be nice, and you say, well, maybe you should run this instead, and they just like, oh my god, But it's probably not as bad as it is maybe on PC, because there's just not as many avenues of approach to communicate. And then the avenues we do have, like the Facebook, there's like 5 Facebook pages that are dedicated, quote unquote, to console STO, and all 5 Facebook pages have like the same amount of members with the same people in them, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is, I mean, you get, just like you do on PC, you have people who don't like people who are good, and then you have people, if they know you're good, they ask you a million questions and send you messages through PSN and Facebook and Discord, which, I don't mind. I don't have a bunch of camp followers, but the ones who do ask me questions, I appreciate the fact that they think I can answer them. And then those who would rather tell me I'm doing it wrong, I just say, okay, that's your opinion, and try to move on.
Don't get me started on the Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Well, you did bring up something, though, that was very important, especially going up with these changes here, and that is communication. Effective, cooperative communication between everybody within an STF. I mean, do you think, and I know what PC's going to say here, but, from a console perspective, How's the communication now with random people within an STF, and how do you think it's going to go post changes?
It works the way they have it set up. We can voice chat automatically just by plugging in a headset, and you're automatically put into the voice chat. Even if you don't plug in a headset and you don't turn it off in your settings, you're going to hear other people who are talking talk. I usually try to stay out of it because when I'm pugging, I just don't care. The reason I'm pugging for a specific reason. I'm not just pugging for the sake of running a queue. But there is communication, and I've been in queues where people were talking back and forth, and it was encouraging. Especially one of the old ones for us was the Iconian queue, Gateway to Grethor. It was so bad going into pugs that we actually made a tutorial video for it and shared it everywhere. We didn't care if we got downvoted. We didn't care if people didn't like it. As long as people watched it and learned how to do that queue. And I was in a Gateway to Grethor a couple of weeks ago on my AOI tune, and it was a Saturday morning, and I was just running it through my TV, didn't have my headsets on, and people are talking, and they're actually telling each other they're going right, we're going left. Don't kill the red herrings. Stay away from the asteroids. Go straight to the station. Just get the green portals, the radiation portals, and they were actually communicating, and it was encouraging to actually hear that type of communication. When for so long, if you try to tell somebody something to do, they just jumped at you like, I know how to play this game. And it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Get off my nuts. I know what I'm doing.
So, yeah, I get that a lot, too, because of my username.
I wonder why.
And funny story, we're actually inviting a new fleet into our armada the other night, and I jumped into a PSN party chat with my Admiral who's in charge of recruiting. They wanted to meet me, so whatever. So we added them all as friends. And the guy goes, I'm going to invite this guy, and I'm going to invite Jizz Nuts. And
Wow.
I was just like, that's JZH Nuts. Oh, okay, man, I'm sorry.
As in Jay-Z's hairy nuts?
Yeah, hairy, smelly, sweaty, but not jizz. And so I thought that was pretty funny. But no, communication, I think communication will be fine once we get season 12, and then once we get season 13 in balance. It is going to be interesting to see with builds specifically how communication goes with that, because right now everybody knows what the meta is. And there's a lot of us who are trying things off meta, like torp builds and turret builds and whatever. And so, I have to stop myself when somebody asks me a question to say, oh, just try this or try that, and realize that they're learning still. And, they're only like level 55. Look, just go with the meta for now. And then once you get that down, do something easy, then start experimenting. But I think the communication will be fun.
Well, I think you guys on console actually have a small advantage with these bounce nerfs, whatever, rolling out on PC, because most likely, if anything gets fixed in the time after these things roll out, you're gonna get the fixed version. So
Absolutely.
you guys may not be going through the pain and suffering we may be going through.
No, the only thing we're expecting is that we'll probably have the turn rate bug back for a couple of weeks once season 12 hits, and then the same probably once space balance hit season 13. But absolutely, if y'all get space balance and 2 weeks later they turn around and say, okay, we're going to put Leech back up to how it was pre-nerf, we won't have to deal with Leech, for 2 weeks being the way it was. Or if something's broken, then as long as they fix it on PC, we should be able to get the fix too on console right away, which is encouraging, and it's usually that's how it's worked so far when there's been changes on PC.
One thing I'm jealous of the consoles, you guys get Horizon Zero Dawn. God
Excellent
damn it.
game. Excellent game. My only complaint about that game was that it was too short. I platinumed it and 100% completioned it in about 50 hours. So that was my only complaint, was that it was too short, and I didn't feel like I actually had to explore. But a beautiful game. If you do have a PS4, I highly recommend getting Horizon Zero Dawn.
50 hours too short. Man, oh man.
Well, I'm used to MMOs. We're all playing Mass Effect. I think I'm 25 hours in, and I haven't felt like I've done anything.
I'm 90 some odd hours in on second playthrough, and I still haven't completed the game the first time.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm taking my time with Mass Effect. I'm just just taking it a little bit easy, savoring it. That's the word I want to use. I'm just savoring it as a fine wine. It's a really, really good game. Despite all the fucking crap you see on the internet, it is a pretty good game.
Don't even get me started on the shitty reviews. That was.
Do you want to hear something funny? Those reviews are the reason why Spencer will not buy this game.
Yep.
Because he is so reliant on what other people think that he will not risk doing it himself to see if the game is actually worth it or not.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've streamed every night now for the past 3 or 4 nights. I've talked to members that are in my fleet. I've talked to members who I used to game with in other games, other gaming guilds that I associate with. And I've probably talked to over 100 people. And every single one of those people who have been playing Mass Effect absolutely loves it. And the thing I hear more often than not is, thank God I didn't listen to the reviews. Yes, some of the animations may be bad, but who cares?
Yeah, but they're going to patch that. They've already stated
right.
There's a patch coming.
But I mean, a friend of mine who does my show with me on Monday nights, he didn't even notice the animation problems until I mentioned it. And now he's like, oh yeah, now I'll notice it, big deal. It's they're so nitpicky, and they must have something against BioWare, kind of like Kotaku has something against Bethesda. That they come up with just it's bullshit. Those reviews,
very nitpicky.
It's sad because it's going to keep some people from playing it, like Spencer, who would probably thoroughly enjoy the game and give it a 9 out of 10, or at the very least an 8 out of 10. And they give him bad reviews, and the game doesn't deserve bad reviews at all.
All right, let's not derail tonight's topic. We're all Mass Effect fans, but
end show, begin Mass Effect now. Talk about Mass Effect. What are you guys doing in the game?
Well,
what are you guys doing out there?
I just want to throw it out there. I think I'm the only person in the channel that hasn't played Mass Effect.
Get out.
No, I'm with you.
Get out.
I mean,
all right, thank you. We gotta go.
I'm playing it right now, as a matter of fact.
Playing
All
some
right,
Minecraft.
so what are you doing in the game? What's your tune? What are you doing in the game? What type of build are you rolling with?
I am a male writer, and I am currently rolling an Adept, which is a biotic user. And my goal this playthrough, because I've already beat the main storyline once, is to sleep with Cora.
That's a good scene.
So was the PB one.
Yeah, PB's pretty good too.
And for those of you that don't know, Protius is a whore.
I'm an online video game whore. I will be the first to admit it.
So is PB.
Hey, don't be talking about my future wife like that, bro.
It's not slut shame.
So I'm still on my first game clue, but what I'm trying to do is trying to, in stages, like every time I reach a stage, try to do all the side missions, everything possible, and then continue on with the main storyline. I want to get there. I want to finish the last mission with 100% completion on everything, and running a female writer. And I'm going for the Explorer build, which is a combination of combat, tech, and biotic.
What about you, Jay?
Male rider. I'm also doing the Explorer build right now, and kind of doing what Sarcasm's doing, except my focus is getting planet's 100% habitable or viable. And then I move on, do some things, and then I come back and finish the quest. Kind of do the main story mission a little bit, then move back and do side quests, do the relationship quest. I just found the Asari arc, which was pretty cool. It was a fun mission.
that was a good mission. I love that mission.
Like I said, I'm only 25 hours in, so I'm chasing the Archon is where I am main story wise. But just kind of going back and forth, I find myself on the Nexus, and I look at my map and I see a mission's available. I go for it, complete it. If I'm on EOS, do the same thing. Just kind of, there's not a real goal plan. It's just I'm kind of sporadic. I'm here, I find a mission, I go for it.
I have seen a lot of the Easter eggs, and I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, but if you think this game is awesome, wait until you see what's coming. That's all I'm going to say.
What do you think is coming?
I know for sure that we're getting some DLC. I know for sure. And it's going to be soon.
Yeah, we're going to get a DLC, and yeah.
And more than likely, from what I saw, all the little areas that I explored and things that I triggered and found and blah, 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 more than likely we're getting a sequel as well.
Nice. What do you...
Infinite sequel.
Have y'all guys dabbled in multiplayer yet at all? Too much? Or?
Oh, yeah, we have.
Yes.
It's fun. We actually, some of us recorded some stuff. I think Zeph is going to be putting out a film that he recorded, and I've got a montage of stuff I got to put together for a video to put out, but we did do some multiplayer, and it was absolutely flawless.
Nice. Yeah, we're going to be doing multiplayer this Saturday. Probably stream a little bit of it. We've all been focusing on all the guys I play with on PS4. We've all been focusing on just the single player campaign. Doing the strike missions though. One thing I do want to note, I'm big on being able to access the game away from my console. And the Strike Team app, the Apex app, which is a little buggy at times, I
haven't had any issues with it so far.
As long as you completely close it out when you're done before going back into it, I think that's where we found if you don't completely close it out, it might kind of lag or lock up a little bit. Is for me the greatest app that's come out since I played, I think, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I absolutely love the fact that I can do strike team missions on the go, get campaign or get rewards that actually help me in the campaign, and it's not much, but it's a little bit here. It's research, it's items, it's credits. I think that is just awesome to me. I think they did a really good job with that system.
Yeah, it turned out very well.
It is a very well made game, apart from the facial animation issue, which is really minor. I mean,
it's not game breaking. Let's be honest here. But I did do some investigating after I heard a lot of people crying about it. They are working on a patch for it, and that patch is also more than likely going to include character customization tweaks and more control over what you can make for a character. That's what's coming.
Nice.
Can we change the eyebrows?
I'm hoping. That and the goddamn cranium size, because I'm tired of being a brainiac, bro.
Yeah, no shit.
Other than that, I like my head size.
Of course you would. Big-headed black guy with an afro.
I hope they
why are you assuming I have an afro?
I hope they fix the skin tone, because on my rider, I made her more. Well, I made her less brown, but it didn't stick, and she was brown.
Well, I've noticed a few little glitches and stuff with the character creator and the customization options. You actually have to physically hit spacebar to get most of the stuff to stick, even though it doesn't say on screen to hit spacebar. That's my workaround for all of that.
Ear size, Talon, you're right. I think the biggest issue with the facial animation, what I've noticed and what we've discussed, is the eye size. all the females have bug eyes, which is, I think, the main issue with the facial animation.
I
Fix
really
the
haven't had an
eyes.
issue with that.
If you fix the eyes, I think that would resolve most of the issues people see with the facial animation.
Mm. Right now, I'm in a remnant vault about to activate on Kadara. Fun vault this one was.
Yeah, here's writers once skin tone darkened and I set in the character creator. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I'm seeing. It's kind of weird. I might have to go in again on my second playthrough and just. Well, I'm hoping that the patch will be out by then, and maybe we'll have a little bit more option.
Yeah, hoping the patch comes sooner than later. Because there are a few minor bugs, like with some of the triggers in the game. If you don't finish the combat sequence properly, like me and Astro have both found out, there are certain areas of the game that will lock you out of activating a console, and then you either have to die and reset or try to go back to a previous save to fix that, and that was rather annoying. But I mean, it's a game. It's gonna have bugs. I mean, for what they delivered to us day one, oh, totally AAA, totally 9 out of 10, without a doubt.
Announcement of fixes will be April 4th. Now, is this the announcement when they announce the fixes, or this is when the actual fixes come out?
That's probably going to be when they're announcing the patch and what they're planning to do, and then they do their thing, they roll it out, because they also have to go through Sony and Microsoft for their approval thing, because they're on console. So they're probably going to announce it, show everybody what they're doing, and then wait for that approval.
This is one thing I don't get. I played Borderlands 2 quite a bit, and I used to play it on the PC, and then I go to my friend's house and we play it on his PS3. And I remember the patches would come out almost simultaneously for both the PC version and the PS3 version. So it's a little bit strange. I'm not sure how Gearbox managed to pull that off, but
well, they probably submitted the patch to the console first, made sure it was going to get approved, and then rolled it out all together.
Well, no, because there would be bugs that come out that would show up or be discovered, and they'd be patched like really quickly. So
that is interesting. I wonder how they did that.
Magic and voodoo.
Or they had an I know that Borderlands 2 was programmed agnostically, so it was basically it was programmed independent of any of the different console mediums, and it was just compiled for each one. It was just one.
Wait! I just realized something. Odin got out of the whole "What are you doing in Mass Effect?" question.
Odin? I was compiling some of the numbers on between Triple and Holodeck for the flight speed.
I mean, other than you sucking at multiplayer, how are you enjoying Mass Effect?
I'm gonna be right there with them because shooters are not my forte anymore. I'm getting too old.
Well, I will say this: I like playing in it. It's just that some of the controls, especially when I'm trying to leap from one area to the other, isn't all that great for me. I prefer to use a controller in those type of situations. I also need a better sniper weapon in multiplayer, because what I have in the single player mission, I have a really juiced up crafted sniper weapon, and I love it. I'm literally popping fools' heads, from top to bottom. On multiplayer, it's like
that's why we got to level up.
Yeah, I know I need to level up, which means I need to play more multiplayer. Yes, I get that. I understand that. With that said, though, I'm actually enjoying the multiplayer aspect of the game here. I just need to play it more.
Yeah, it is quite enjoyable. But you're still skipping the question. What are you doing in Mass Effect other than multiplayer?
All right. Well, what I did was I actually built up one of my tunes to be a combat/tech. I focused heavy on combat, like it was, especially with the Terran weapons, and then I did a little bit of tech as like a secondary type of spec sort of deal. But combat is straight up my cup of tea. I like going in, guns blazing, a lot of your, well, quote unquote, projectile / kinetic type of deal. I'm not a fan of a lot of the energy weapon loadouts there, even though they're not ammo based. I just don't like the feel of it. They don't have enough punch for what I like.
You might want to
Snipers
try
and
the
grenade
sweeper.
launchers, especially the grenade launcher that you told me about.
Oh yeah, the Falcon.
Oh,
Oh.
so in love with that.
Throw that sticky grenade mod on it, and it's game on, dude. Put a sniper scope on it, it's even better.
I don't even have the sticky grenade mod on it yet, but it is so good. I'm literally doing bank shots and nailing fools whenever they're turning around on the corner.
Right now, I'm messing with a weapon that Astro recommended to me, and it's out of the Helios cluster. It's called the Sweeper Assault Rifle, and it's energy-based. It's got 3-round bursts, and there's no clip. It's heat-based, so if you run out of energy and it overheats, you gotta wait. But it reloads itself after a few seconds if you're not shooting. So it's like unlimited ammo on tap, and it's actually got some punch to it. I was surprised.
Yeah, I'm running the PAW from Remnant. It's the same way. Assault rifle, I really like it. It shoots a beam like a laser beam. And then
you're talking about the paw?
Yep.
Yeah, that one's not bad, but I'm kind of leaning towards the sweeper because it's got that assault rifle feel to it instead of space laser beam gun.
You said it's in the Helios? Hold on, check it out.
Yeah, it's in the Helios cluster under assault rifle. Mine's at Mark 8 right now because I'm level 63. Yay!
Oh, the Sonnet assault rifle is pretty decent as well. So with the combat and tech, that's the Sentinel build, is it not?
Yeah, I believe so. But
Yep.
if he's probably not using the Sentinel build, because what I found in this game, you're not tied to one build. You could pick your profile, Adept, Guardian, Vanguard, whatever, and it'll give you certain sets of stats. But what you choose to use for your powers comes from your combat, your biotics, and your tech abilities that you can level up. Those are the ones that define what you're actually doing. So right now I'm running an Adept profile because it really boosts the living hell out of my biotics, and I'm using the Singularity, which is a gravity well. Shocker! And the throw ability, along with my Remnant VI tech drone. It's actually, if you get your chance to grab one as soon as you do PB's loyalty and you get the Remnant VI, level that bad boy up in the skill points and use it. It literally does some really nasty stuff.
Oh,
Especially
yeah,
when you're combining it with a Singularity and doing the combos. Oh my god.
I do something actually similar. What I use is the pull and then the throw, which is kind of similar. Once you get the pull leveled up a little bit, you know, especially with the radius, you hit someone with a pull, it'll pull like 2, 3, 4 people up in the air all around each other, kind of like the Singularity. And then you hit, and then you hit the throw, and they all go it's like bowling basically. They all go fly.
Space bowling. I'm just having way too much fun with this game. I love the Mass Effect series. I really do.
One thing I definitely want to say, especially if you're going into crafting, which I personally enjoy, and I hope they add more crafting patterns to any DLCs or the next game there, is there are some mods that work great as advertised. And there are a couple that you think should be great, but just don't perform well for one reason or another. And one of them I definitely want to say... Go on.
When I first saw the trailers and the developers playing the game, one guy was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get the Black Widow, throw the beam emitter laser thing on it," and I tried it. I honestly gave it a try. I was like, "This thing sucks."
That's exactly what I was going to talk about there, because Talon had said that he did a heat-based weapon, and he threw on the plasma-seeking projectile ones on there, and he loved it.
Now, the plasma projectiles is different from the beam emitter, though. The beam emitter turns it into a laser rifle.
Which you expect to be good.
It sucked. I couldn't one-shot anything. I was like, what the hell is this?
I made a Mark IV Black Widow with the laser mod on it, and then I had a Mark II Black Widow that was already made beforehand, and it had level 1 mods on it, so it's not that great compared to the level 4. But the level 4, the laser was doing almost half the damage of the Mark II Black Widow.
Yep.
And I'm like, this sucks. I broke that thing down and just kept the mod there in case they patch it and make it better. But that laser should be doing stupendous amount of damage, you know. And I thought maybe it's a range thing. At close range, it's doing the same damage as it is from 100 meters out. So it's useless.
I'm going to try this sweep route now.
Yeah, gonna have to look into the sweep.
It's not a full auto weapon, but it does have a nice amount of power behind it. So you get your 3-round burst. It does fly up a little bit as you're doing your shots, but it's got enough punch to actually do some lethal damage to these targets. I mean, I'm taking out the yellow dudes, you know, the fully armored guys. I'm taking them out with just that rifle. That's it.
What I want to do is I want to become a Borg. I want to get all the remnant armor.
That remnant armor looks sick.
It looks real sick, yeah.
I want to get ultra rare versions of it so I can craft it.
Yeah, I'm using the Helios armor at the moment.
I'm using the Deep Space Explorer armor that came with my DLC. Haha.
Does that scale up or?
I haven't had any problems with it so far. It's all ultra rare, and it gives me XP bonus and weapon damage bonus.
Yeah, I might go back to that.
Pro tip from Talon: do not put a heatsink on weapons that have a one-shot clips. With the reload or recharge. Recharge time is really slow.
Yes, it is.
I did get the Helios Defender set.
That one's not half bad.
I mean, it was a bit expensive and had required quite a bit of stuff, and it's not bad, but I wouldn't say it's good. I don't know. I wasn't too impressed with it. I think I went back to the Initiative. Actually, no, the Pathfinder Recon, whatever. I just might
now
go
remind
back.
me, because Zeph was saying that he loves the M8. So what's the M8 weapon again? Is that an assault rifle?
Yes, the M8 Avenger is an assault rifle. It's one of the original weapons from the game. From the very first Mass Effect, that was one of the first weapons you got.
So it's an N7 style weapon.
I wouldn't say N7 style, but it's definitely a nice little full auto machine gun assault rifle.
No, M8, M8, not N7.
N7 as in the group of people.
Yeah, the N7 initiative, or the N7 training group. Basically, the special forces of the Alliance.
M8, not N7.
Shut up, Cam. We know you were making a joke, but shut up. It's over.
Never mind. I can't even say sarcasm detected on that one.
You could, but it would be pointless.
It would be. So, how far along? I know Protius said you're on his second playthrough. How far along on that playthrough are you?
I am. Let's see, 4th planet in. I just got my 4th planet to 100%, and I'm 2 missions away from doing the last story-based mission. But you can continue everything else after the story is done, and you'll see when you get there. You can go back to all these planets, do all your little side missions, do some more farming, some XP grinding. You can do whatever you want. There's literally no limitation. There's no end game to it except for the story saying, okay, this is where this happens, and we'll see you in the next one.
About 23 hours in on my... Can't tell what percentage I'm at, but I have 1 planet at 100, and I have... I think EOS still at 79%, and just starting on Havar.
If you want to see how much your percentage is, do a save game real quick, and then do a load game to pull up the load screen, and the save will tell you how much of the game completion you have right now. I'm on my 2nd playthrough, and I'm only at 36%.
It's a massive game. I really like these big games where you have to spend like a long time to finish.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
They put a lot of stuff in like completely out there places too. Like I like to go around and free roam explore before I go and do the main
Oh, yeah.
story. And I'm just running around at random places and suddenly it's like, oh, there's something here.
And
Let me go investigate.
the Easter eggs, they have made so many direct references to the original trilogy in this game, and they're hidden everywhere. So explore everything. Talk to everyone, because you are going to be genuinely surprised at what you find.
I mean, I think we can give away one of the Easter eggs. I mean, one I noticed was when you're on EOS, the first time you go onto EOS, and you can actually jump on to the Tempest, and you're running on the roof with the Tempest, and that pilot there, Callow, will go, really?
Really, Ryder? Really? And that was a direct throwback to the original game. That was great.
Now, what kind of decisions are your guys' tunes making during the game?
First playthrough, I did all casuals. So I was basically nonchalant about everything, like, oh shit, you're gonna get your ass kicked, that kind of stuff. But this time around, I'm doing all the logical choices just to see how the conversations will change. And let me tell you this, the conversations do change a great deal, and the way people treat you changes a great deal.
Oh yeah, Talon, that architect. I think I ran into him when I had a mission to find some people, whatever. And yeah, that first time running into that architect was definitely a clincher.
Oh, and Talon just let it out about the Conrad Werner's sister. That was one of the funniest conversations I've seen in this game so far. Wait till I call him and tell him I'm hanging out with big shots too. What?
Oh, wow.
Good luck with that.
It's a lot of expensive phone call.
Well, considering he's been dead for 600 some odd years.
Yeah.
There's another thing we can probably kind of skirt around without spoiling it too much. There's kind of hints and details about what happened to the Milky Way. Now, BioWare has come out and said that all the endings of Mass Effect 3 are not canon.
Yeah,
So
they refuse to canonize the endings.
So it might be that actually none of the endings are actually canon.
Yep, we could get to a situation where they say, okay, you guys all thought this happened, but guess what? This really happened.
And
I'm
there are
looking
hints.
forward to it.
Yeah, there are hints here and there. It's kind of sprinkled around. I mean, you will kind of notice them if you're kind of trying to pay attention to them, see what's going on with the Milky Way. And I'm pretty sure this is what's going to lead into the DLC.
At the very least, the DLC. Sorry, I was vaping there.
We get it. You vape.
Yep.
Vape every day.
I am after having seen some of the end game quote unquote stuff, I'm very curious now and very hopeful for what's coming. And I'm just going to leave it there, because if I go any further, it's probably going to ruin the spoiler endings for some people, and I don't want to do that, because it's really worth taking the time, digging in, going after all the clues and the memory triggers and all that stuff to find what's coming.
The Borg's coming. They're going to assimilate everyone.
And talk to everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, the conversations really, even all the little side missions that you do, the conversations are really well put together.
And there's always this funny thing that pops up every once in a while, especially when you're reading all the if you go to all the terminals, read all the data pads, you'll find some nuggets in there. There's some real hilarious stuff.
What about the clutch decisions that you have to make in the game? Like some big decision points. I think most of us have already done Volth, or however you say that planet, the ice planet.
Bald.
Yeah,
No,
Vol.
yeah.
We all call it something different.
Hot.
I don't want to give too much away, but the impact of your decisions aren't as drastic as they were in the trilogy. So don't get all fretted up about it and stuff like that. Make your decision that you think is best for the situation for your playthrough.
I'd agree with that.
Hey, Alan, Zeph, you're kind of listening in. Really sorry about the spoilers, but at some point on Vold, you're driving on the ice, and then Snape kills Dumbledore.
Oh, damn! You ruined it.
Vader jumps out the back window and says, "I'm Luke. I'm your father."
Voldemort is the big bad at the end.
Oh yeah, PB's banter with everyone is just absolutely hilarious. PB is very well done.
Her and Cora in the Nomad driving together is absolutely hilarious.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to kill myself at some point because I was having flashbacks. It was bad.
Well, PB and Jal in the Nomad was pretty funny as well.
Mm. Yeah,
That's actually a fun conversation though, because those two are kind of like, I don't know, it's like more they're trying to feel their way around each other.
Pretty much, yeah. Although at one point my writer just said, "You know what? I'll turn this car around."
Yep.
And then you get Drac at one point says, "Hey man, can you watch the bumps? I am kind of over 1,000 years old here."
A great
They
All right,
did
so
it.
who's your favorite character out of all of them?
Favorite companion or favorite tag team that I roll with all the time?
Or how about both? Favorite companion and favorite tag team?
My favorite companion right now is PB. Hands down.
Hands down. Agreed.
Yeah,
She's got the most character, the most life to her. Cora is okay, but she's very cold and disconnected, and it's probably because she's butthurt about you being the Pathfinder and she's not. But that's neither here nor there. But as far as combo goes, the best combat combo that I have found so far is PB and Drac.
Yep. PB and Drac all day, every day.
Yeah, they just ignite off their combos and synergize very well together.
I will say, because I have done Cora as my main love interest, once you get the relationship going and she gets her level 6 skills or whatever, she doesn't die like she does all the time before that
Wait,
point.
your characters are dying? Dude,
Well,
you must suck at this game.
Yeah, I do.
Good.
Get good, spam spacebar, bro.
Well, once I got rid of Cora on my team, nobody dies except me. But once she gets those level 6 skills unlocked, once you do the quest for it, whatever, the Asari art, she's a lot better. She doesn't die, whatever. But Drac and PB, definitely, and PB would be my favorite person to have bantering around. She's great.
How about you, Odin? Who's your favorites?
I haven't settled on them yet, but I definitely do love the conversations between Cora and PB. And what's the black dude's name?
Liam.
Lyle?
Liam? Oh my god.
Liam and Jar. I'm bad with names. So
Jar.
forgive me.
I will say this though about Liam and PB.
Those two conversations are nice.
I have a friend who's got a female character, and he did love interest with both Liam and PB, and he said that the conversations with them together in the Nomad is hilarious. I haven't heard him yet, but he said the banter between them, because they both kind of know what's up. It's pretty funny.
And what's up with that sofa though?
Yeah, don't even get me started. Does anybody else feel like they want to take Liam and toss him out of an airlock with a thermal detonator shoved up his butt?
Why?
Is anybody else getting that?
No, and you're probably messing with Astro's favorite tune too. So
No, actually, Astro's going for the Cubano on Kadara.
Oh,
As a matter of fact, I'm going to unmute Astro and see if he wants to talk.
I think he's self-muted.
No, he wasn't self-muted. Astro?
Yes.
we're on the Mass Effect series, buddy. So, what's your favorite?
Oh, you mean Reyes? Oh.
Who-
Yeah.
Well,
That-
who's your favorite companion? Who's your favorite tag team? And who's your favorite love interest?
Well, definitely Reyes is my favorite love interest. But tag team right now it's Drac and the what's her name?
Vetra?
Yeah, Vetra. Yeah, those two. Those two's conversations are great, dude.
All right, out of all 6 companions, who's your absolute favorite?
Probably Drac. That's only
Really?
because I have daddy issues.
Oh, yeah, true.
Mhm.
All right, who's your least favorite?
That would probably be Liam. Sorry, Odin. I know you're gonna think it's some kind of a thing towards you, but the dude, yeah, I can't deal. I can't deal.
What is he talking about?
Liam, the black guy that everybody wants
Yeah,
to throw off their
so,
ship.
all right, so he doesn't like the attitude. No big deal.
There's no attitude.
He's just
He
a
seems-
dumbass.
He's an optimistic dumbass, dude. That's all he is. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this, Ryder. We're gonna rock it. Yeah.
And I get the intent expression that he really doesn't have a clue. And I've played through his loyalty mission and through some of the other stuff, and I've seen some of the stuff that goes on and some of the conversations with him, and I get the impression that he has no clue what he's doing.
No.
It's probably my least favorite as well.
Uh-oh.
I sense a racial thing coming on here for Odin.
I'm about to rant.
Why you guys hate the black guy?
All right, let me just segue real quick back onto something with STL. Aponte, you still here?
Yeah.
All right, get this. Remember how they said that they boosted the speed for destructible torps?
Yes.
All right, so I did my firing tests on holodeck and Tribble. Max range at least outside of 9.8K, so we're probably anywhere between 9.9 and 9.8K. Travel time with no torpedo pre-fire sequence trait is the same on both holodeck and Tribble. But with the trait, you see a reduction in speed for travel time on Tribble that's greater than the one on holodeck. So let me give you a good example here. The slowest one out of them all, the temporal disruption device. We're at about 17 seconds on both holodeck and Tribble, which tells me that the trait torpedo pre-fire sequence is needed in order for those torps to travel faster. So the blanket all heavy torps or targetable torpedoes move faster is not true. You need the trait in order for it to move faster.
So is it more that instead of actually making them go faster, they just buffed torpedo pre-fires, that trait? So now they move
Yes.
faster? Yeah, so that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's not like some jaw-breaking speed run either.
I mean, here we were talking about an actually well put together game, and then they have to go back.
I know, sorry, I just had to go back into that. I'm sorry. My bad.
Derailed the
Love that.
conversation with obsolete torps. I mean, seriously.
Triggered.
Anyway, triggered. Back to Mass Effect, or whatever's left of it that you all want to talk about.
I think you should load up some multiplayer and get good, bro.
I will.
Now, does the same apply for Mass Effect? Does STO span spacebar get good?
No.
No, you actually need skill in Mass Effect, especially the lower levels. You actually need skill.
And you guys expect Odin to do well at this game?
Oh!
Shots
Wait,
fired.
expect?
I don't think there's any expectations at all.
Get your ass in the game, and I'll show you how good I am.
I have the recordings to prove it, bro.
I
Hey,
do.
hey, just because I'm like level 2 and I was still saving your ass and Astro's ass when both of you were knocked the fuck out.
Dude, I got proof that you were hiding in a corner, cowering like a little girl, while we were killing the rage.
Excuse me, I was freaking sniping them from range with a sniper rifle, okay?
How are you going to snipe from the back of the room, hiding behind cover, when the enemy is on the other side of the wall?
Hey, Proteus, don't attack
rifle?
him when he's in the safe place.
I could have swore you had a coloring book and some crayon.
Yeah, like, hold them still for a second. Pop, pop. Ooh, I traced inside the line. Yay!
We give Odin way too much shit.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. As soon as I get
It was fun, though.
Relive to work with this damn thing. You know what? Let me try and load it up right now. See if I'll actually go straight through into it.
See, at least you guys are playing a real game. I'm still not playing a real game.